Hey everyone. Today we're working on something a little different. It's my 2001 Ford Excursion. It seems to have a fuel leak. I've been fighting this for a while. Um, it, I think it's just the age of it. When you fix one leak, another one where the weakest link is, it'll basically, fall apart. So, I've pulled the fuel bowl out. I've done fuel lines, all the O-ring seals, and I mustn't have done something right. So we're gonna dive into it and see what else we can figure out here because it's still leaking. Looks like a different place, but we got to figure out where it's leaking from because this is getting to the point where it's really old dealing with this. So follow along and we'll see what we can find. Okay, so here's the fuel bowl, and then this is the line going in. I should say line. I think the line going out, and the line going in is down in there. It's hard to see with this angle, but anyway, right there. So you can see that going in. So neither one of them seem to be leaking. You can feel around them, and they're dry. But the lines that go to the heads down here, I think this one is the culprit. And you see it's kind of wet. I don't know if I stripped it or what I did trying to tighten that, but I've done the shut off gaskets and everything, and it just, I don't know, something doesn't seem right. So I think I'm gonna end up having to take it off, and we'll see what we can figure out here. Be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back. I checked the tightness of the lines that go to the head here and here, and then also check the tightness here. Now this had a little bit of a leak, and so did these, but nothing like the amount that should be leaving a puddle underneath the truck the way it was. So, and the truck's on an angle tilting backwards, so the ass end's lower than the front of the truck. So that being said, at the back of this block, there's literally a hole in the casting. So if there were leaks up here, and there was a leak here, it would go down into the center like tray of the engine, and it would literally flow to the back of the engine. And where this fluid's coming from is the front cross member, literally like right under the axle, or I should say above the axle. And so I was kind of baffled by that, because if it had been one of these two, it would have drained back there and been leaking all over the back of the block, not towards the front. So what I came to realize is this line here, I had done a fix on this years ago where the quick disconnect is, because it was leaking, and I put a hard connection in way down along the frame rail. And what I think is happening is the way in which I didn't mount it right or did something stupid in it. I think this line here was rubbing up against the exhaust manifold, and I think it pinned a hole in it, because it was just leaking a little bit a minute ago, and I literally put my hand down in here and pulled up on that line and see what it would do, and it leaked more. And it's not leaking at the fitting that I made like a flared fitting instead of a quick disconnect. So we're gonna take this line off, which is a real pain in the ass. Probably have to take the intercooler pipe off and stuff like that and make the job a little bit easier. But we're gonna see what we find. More likely, hopefully that's the fix, because this has really been aggravating. I've done all these seals. I even did a seal on the back of the head, way back in here. And basically, in order to do that, I'd take the turbo off and all the intercooler pipes, all this stuff you see here, I had to take all of it off in order to get to that seal back there, just to get it off and tightened up. So we did that one. We did the other seal that goes to the front of the head behind the alternator here. When I had a power steering, took the power steering off to get to that. So hopefully this will fix it. So we're gonna pull this line off and we'll see what happens, or at least see what we find anyway. All right, so we're underneath the truck here. As you can see, these fuel lines. This one here comes from your fuel pump, which goes back, and I have one along the frame with an aftermarket fuel pump. I got tired of the stock ones. But it comes up in here and it goes right there, that fitting. Now, from there, if you can see, it goes like kind of over this direction near the head and near the exhaust manifold. And I think what's happening is like right past here, it must be rubbing the exhaust manifold. It goes around the exhaust manifold and then up to your fuel bowl. So we're going to pull it out here and we'll see what we find. But I just wanted to point out a few things. Like that's your return line, comes down and goes back to your fuel tank. But you can see like all this is wet. The frame, you can see how wet the frame is where the leaf spring's not, but that's all wet. But it was dripping all over the frame here, and sorry my phone is not focusing, but right in here, and it would go down to the center of the cross member, and that's where it was dripping from. So I think right up above that, above this cross member must be a crack or something to that effect. But we'll pull it out here and we'll see what we find. Now we're back. We finally got the fuel line off. Made a mistake that this goes from that line that I showed you underneath the truck, and then it goes up here to about the front of the engine, and then there's another disconnect. So I didn't actually have to take the line off from up at the fuel bowl. There's two different ones. Now normally on a 7.3, these are quick disconnects, but they were leaking, and years and years ago I made this little fix. Now, because it's a hard line, obviously it doesn't move, and so that's what the problem is here. So what happened was the line was sitting up against something, as you can see right in there, if it'll focus. There's like a little pinhole where it was rubbing up against something. I don't know if it's a frame rail or whatever, but that's where the leak's coming from. So I'm gonna probably just make another fuel line, and then hopefully make it a little longer so we don't have any issues. I'll be back in a second. And we're back here at the shop. Just wanted to show you. So this is the original line, and I think I'm gonna go with a rubber hose this time. Have it so it has a little more give. Hopefully it won't cause the rubbing like that and make holes and stuff like that. But this is also a little bit longer, so I might be able to route it a little bit differently. But basically, at the end of my other line, there's a fitting on it like this, and so this piece will screw into here like that, and then of course this hose will go in here, and that'll connect the other end. So hopefully we get this done and we won't have any leaks. I'll let you know in a minute. Hey, we're back. I got the fuel line on. Everything appears to be dry, so let's keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully it'll stay that way. I was gonna shoot some of that, but there's not really much to see other than what you saw on the workbench here. It's cold, it's dark, and it's snowing outside, so it's not really great for footage. Anyway, so one other thing I just want to mention. So if you have any kind of fuel lines or wiring that you're running out of the norm, so it's not factory location or whatever, you just want to be sure that it's secured and it's zip tied or has clamps or some sort, that it's secure, that it's not going to bounce and hit, like say, your steering column or rub up against your exhaust manifold and melt whatever it is. If that happens to happen, you hit a bump and say you had a piece of wiring there and it grabs hold of the steering column, it's just going to tear it right off, and then you're going to have a really crappy day. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for people that have never been run into that. It's a good thing to keep in mind. So until next time.